When I first moved into Oakwood Estates 3 years ago, I thought I'd found the perfect place. Perfectly trimmed lawns, clean sidewalks, and a community pool that looked like it belonged at a luxury resort. It was the picture of suburban bliss. What no one told me, especially not the overly enthusiastic real estate agent, was that Oakwood came with an ironclad homeowners association, run by none other than Karen Wilkins, our HOA president. If you ever wondered what happens when someone with the energy of a DMV supervisor gets a tiny taste of authority, you find your answer in Karen. From day one, she made it her mission to monitor my every move. Garbage bins left out for 12 minutes past the pickup window, violation notice. Grass growing 1/4 inch taller than regulation, another notice. I even got flagged for displaying the American flag outside my garage. Apparently, it wasn't mounted aesthetically enough for the neighborhood's visual harmony. I wish I were exaggerating. I'm a pretty laid-back guy. I work from home as a software developer and mostly keep to myself. I'd always give a polite wave when I saw Karen marching down the street with her clipboard, doing what she dramatically referred to as compliance inspections. But every friendly gesture was met with squinted eyes and scribbled notes. It didn't take long to realize that in Karen's world, the only thing that mattered was strict obedience to her version to rules. Things went from annoying to borderline obsessive last summer when I decided to repaint my front door. I chose a rich navy blue that matched beautifully with my home's gray exterior. I even did things by the book, submitted the color sample to the HOA Architectural Committee, and got official written approval. The painters came early Saturday morning and had the job done before lunch. I was admiring their work when I heard a very familiar sound. Karen clearing her throat dramatically, standing behind me like some kind of suburban warden. "That's not the approved color," she snapped, pushing her glasses up while flipping through a document in her HOA binder. "The form says Midnight Ocean. This looks more like Naval Academy blue." I stayed calm, explained that the paint matched the approved code exactly, and even showed her the label on the can, along with the committee's approval letter. But none of it mattered to her. "The final color looks different in execution than it did on the sample," she declared, as if she just made a groundbreaking legal argument. "You'll need to repaint it to the correct shade by Monday or face a $100 daily fine." At that point, I was losing patience. I asked where in the HOA bylaws it said a paint color could be penalized for appearing different in execution. Karen just scoffed, told me to consult my homeowner's manual, and stormed off to find her next victim. That weekend, I documented everything. Photos of the door, printed approvals, paint codes, all in preparation for what I knew would become a ridiculously drawn-out battle over a shade of blue. But things got a lot more serious about 2 months ago. One morning, I woke up with sharp, stabbing pain in my lower right side. It was familiar, too familiar. I have a family history of kidney stones, and I knew what this meant. The pain was blinding. I couldn't even walk to the bathroom without almost collapsing. I called my doctor, who immediately told me to head to the ER. When I explained I could barely stand, he told me to call 911. With shaking hands, I dialed the number, and the dispatcher reassured me that help was on the way. I barely managed to unlock the front door before collapsing onto the couch, doubled over in agony. The stabbing pain in my side was relentless. Through the haze, I faintly heard the wail of approaching sirens. Relief washed over me. Help was coming. Or so I thought. The siren stopped. Minutes dragged by, and no one came to the door. My panic deepened. Something was wrong. Eventually, the doorbell rang. I opened the security cam app on my phone to check who it was, expecting paramedics ready to rush me to the ER. What I saw instead made my blood boil. There stood a very irritated paramedic, and next to him, arms defiantly crossed, was Karen, standing on my lawn. The paramedic's tone was calm, but barely. "Sir, we've been trying to get to your home for the past 15 minutes. This woman blocked our ambulance at the community entrance. She claimed we weren't authorized to enter." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Karen, unfazed, was already flipping through her infamous clipboard. "Emergency vehicles must be logged at the HOA office prior to entering the neighborhood," she announced proudly, like she just cited scripture. "It's for the safety and peace of the community." No sirens or flashing lights without proper notification. The paramedic looked like he was fighting every urge to say something that would definitely get him written up. "Sir, we need to get you to the hospital immediately. Can you walk, or should we bring a stretcher?" Before I could answer, Karen stepped in between us. "He can't leave yet," she declared. "His landscaper showed up outside approved hours last Tuesday. That violation hasn't been processed. We can't overlook repeated offenses just because someone's feeling under the weather." I was stunned, in excruciating pain, barely able to stand, and here she was arguing over landscaping while blocking my emergency care. Fighting through the agony, I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Karen, these are emergency medical personnel. I need help. Please step aside." She didn't flinch. "It's Mrs. Wilkins," she corrected with that same smug superiority I'd come to know too well. "And as HOA president, it's my duty to enforce the rules. Emergency or not, there are procedures." That was the final straw for the second paramedic. He stepped up, his patience clearly gone. "Ma'am, interfering with emergency services is a crime. We are legally authorized to enter any property when responding to a 911 call. Step aside now." Karen's face flushed with fury. "Do you even know who I am? I've run this HOA for 7 years. Nothing happens in Oakwood Estates without my approval." At that point, my memory starts to blur. The pain had become too much. I remember the paramedics radioing for police backup. I remember them lifting me onto the stretcher, while Karen followed, still ranting about HOA bylaws and unauthorized medical transport. But I'll never forget the moment a police cruiser finally pulled up. As they were loading me into the ambulance, the officer calmly approached to assess the scene. Karen, still under the delusion that she was in the right, launched into a full report of all my alleged violations, 17 by her count, including this unauthorized ambulance visit. "Ma'am," the officer interrupted, his voice firm. "Step away from the stretcher. Step away from the vehicle," the officer said firmly, his voice carrying the weary authority of someone who dealt with one too many power-tripping suburban tyrants. "These medical professionals have been delayed in providing emergency care because of your interference. Do you understand that's a criminal offense?" Karen's expression shifted. First confusion, then defiance. "I'm just enforcing community guidelines," she insisted, waving her clipboard like it was a badge of authority. "All visitors, including emergency services, must check in at the guardhouse. It's Rule 37.5. The officer's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, state law overrides your HOA rules. Interfering with emergency services is a Class A misdemeanor. Now please move so they can do their job, or I will place you under arrest." That should have been the end of it. Any rational person would have stepped back. But Karen had clearly crossed a line, one where HOA authority had completely consumed her grip on reality. She stepped in front of the ambulance, planted herself there, raised her hand like a traffic cop. The driver hit the brakes. The officer didn't hesitate. He calmly walked up behind her, placed her under arrest, and read her rights as she flailed and screeched about bylaws and job losses. Her clipboard hit the ground with a soft thud, almost symbolic, as she was led to the police cruiser in handcuffs. It was the last thing I saw before the ambulance doors shut. My emergency? Exactly what I feared. A large kidney stone that required immediate treatment. 2 painful days in the hospital, and 1 procedure later, I returned home expecting to recover quietly. But quiet wasn't in the cards. The story had exploded. The entire community was buzzing. My phone was flooded with texts, neighbors expressing shock, support, and in many cases, their own Karen horror stories. Then came the fallout. Karen was formally charged with interfering with emergency medical services, a charge carrying possible jail time and steep fines. Her lawyer brokered a plea deal, $20,000 fine, 200 hours of community service, a restraining order preventing her from coming within 100 feet of my home. But the legal penalty was just the beginning. The HOA called an emergency board meeting, standing room only. Some residents showed up for the first time, just to make sure their voices were heard. In a unanimous vote, Karen was removed as HOA president and banned from the board altogether. Then came the professional consequences. Karen, ironically a real estate agent specializing in upscale communities, was placed on unpaid leave after her arrest made the news. Her firm didn't want to be associated with someone who became the poster child for HOA tyranny. Word around the neighborhood was that Karen found out about the restraining order, her removal, and her suspension all at once, during a meeting with her attorney. She was in disbelief. One neighbor whispered. She just kept repeating, "But I was following the rules. I was protecting our property values." Apparently, her voice rose to such a pitch that the receptionist outside the attorney's office could hear everything. "This is my community. Mine. They can't do this to me." But they did. And as the reality finally hit, Karen slumped back into her chair, silent, defeated, and, for once in a reign of terror, completely powerless.